Let's go back to a small southern town in the 1930s. It is in the middle of a hot summer. The sun is punishing, the air is thick, and everybody's heading to the corner soda fountain for a scoop of vanilla ice cream. Everybody, except the black kids. Because the rule was simple. If you were black, you couldn't get vanilla ice cream, unless it was Independence Day. That sounds made up, right? Something too petty, too ridiculous, too cruel to be true. But it's not made up. This wasn't a law on the books, it was worse. It was a law of custom. A Jim Crow whisper passed from diner to diner, enforced not with handcuffs but humiliation. And the stories are not internet rumors or conspiracy theories. They come straight from the mouths of black Americans who lived it. Now here's what has to be understood before this story even begins. Jim Crow wasn't just about signs that said white only. It was a full-blown system designed to make sure black people knew their place. From the moment you stepped outside your home, you had to calculate every move, where to walk, where to sit, what to say, and yes, even what to eat. Segregation wasn't only in schools or on buses. It stretched into libraries, doctors' offices, clothing stores, and lunch counters. It policed joy, it narrowed dignity, and at its most absurd, it even tried to segregate dessert. Renowned author and poet Dr. Maya Angelou, in her groundbreaking memoir, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, wrote this haunting line. People in stamps used to say that the whites in our town were so prejudiced that a Negro couldn't buy vanilla ice cream, except on July 4th. Other days he had to be satisfied with chocolate. That was her reality. The black community didn't just endure segregated schools and bathrooms. They were restricted from something as innocent, as American, as vanilla ice cream. And only on a holiday celebrating freedom were they temporarily allowed to taste what others got year-round. Audre Lorde, another legend of literature and truth-telling, told her own chilling story in Zami, A New Spelling of My Name. As a child, she walked into a soda fountain and asked for vanilla ice cream and was refused. The flavor wasn't out of stock. It wasn't melting, it was just denied, because she was black. Michael W. Twitty, culinary historian and author, wrote in The Guardian about his father growing up in the Jim Crow South and experiencing the same thing, being told that vanilla was off limits. In his words, these stories weren't printed in rule books or hung on storefront windows. These rules lived in the air. They were passed down and enforced with a nod, a laugh, a threat, or a closed window. No whites-only sign was needed. You just knew. Twitty put it plainly. It's one of those customs that became so pervasive it didn't need to be documented to be real. And don't forget, these aren't isolated memories. They are echoed in community after community across the South. Stories told by grandparents, whispered across church pews, and passed down in black barbershops and beauty salons. The trauma wasn't just in the refusal, it was in the ritual. You'd approach the counter, you'd feel their eyes, and you'd know to order chocolate even if you didn't like it. So what does that tell you? This wasn't just about ice cream. Vanilla wasn't just a flavor. It became a symbol of purity, of whiteness, of what was denied to black Americans, not just in law, but in life. To be told you could only taste vanilla on Independence Day? That's psychological warfare disguised as a dessert. And it wasn't just flavor prejudice. It was flavor policing. The white South turned ice cream into a caste system, vanilla for whites, chocolate for blacks. As if the very color of what you consumed had to match the color of your skin. As if enjoying vanilla, the default flavor, meant stepping out of your place. And here's the twisted part that most people don't know. Vanilla wouldn't even exist as we know it today without a black man. His name was Edmond Albius, an enslaved boy from the island of Réunion, who at just 12 years old discovered how to hand-pollinate vanilla orchids, a breakthrough that made large-scale vanilla production possible. Before Edmond, vanilla was rare, unpredictable, and nearly impossible to grow outside Mexico. But thanks to his discovery, it became one of the most profitable flavor industries on Earth. And yet Edmond died in poverty. So while white shopkeepers in the American South were banning black folks from eating vanilla ice cream, the very flavor they were hoarding was made possible by a black child genius the world forgot. The restriction of vanilla wasn't about taste. It all boiled down to having control. It was about reminding Black people of what they could and couldn't access, what they were allowed to desire, what joy was rationed and when, a humiliation ritual. And the most twisted part? It wasn't even consistent. Some stores allowed it on July 4th, others didn't. Some would serve it, but only if you took it out the back door. Some gave you a paper cup instead of a cone. Each place had its own version of "you don't belong here." It was segregation by the scoop. And yet still all acts that were degrading and dehumanizing. This is the part of Jim Crow that history books don't tell you. The micro-humiliations, the quiet policies, the everyday insults that added up to a mountain of psychological violence. Vanilla ice cream, sweet, cold, innocent, was turned into a weapon of racism. And now, decades later, you might walk past a freezer aisle or pull up to a Baskin-Robbins and never know what that flavor once symbolized. But someone's grandmother still remembers. Someone's father still flinches when he sees that perfect, pale scoop in a cone he was never allowed to hold. They remember, and now you know. Scope News tells the truth. Here are the facts. Maya Angelou's "I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings" includes the direct quote about only being allowed to buy vanilla ice cream on July 4th in Stamps, Arkansas. Audre Lorde's Zami. A new spelling of my name describes her own refusal at a soda fountain. Culinary historian Michael W. Twitty shared his father's story in The Guardian, further confirming this was a shared, lived experience for many Black families in the Jim Crow South. These are first-hand accounts, oral histories that lived in the hearts of those who survived them. Legal disclaimer. This Scope News report is presented for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes. It contains historical recollections based on memoirs, oral history, and first-hand accounts that may not be documented in official archives, but reflect lived truths from the Jim Crow era. Viewer discretion is advised. Scope News aims to expose the layered injustices experienced by Black Americans through history, particularly those erased or downplayed in mainstream narratives. We believe oral histories are valid and necessary sources for understanding systemic racism. This report may include cultural critique and commentary. All quotes are attributed to their original authors where possible, and this content is not intended to defame or misrepresent any individual or group. Thank you for watching Scope News.